I was once the most famous simp in school. For the sake of a girl, I gave up my studies, my health, and almost died from obsession. But in this second life, I've decided to live for myself. Yeah, when I decided to stop being a simp. The school beauty who once broke my heart suddenly panicked. She started chasing me. From simp to comeback, just how far can I go? Alex Zaw gave his room a half-hearted sweep, then started memorizing vocabulary. Around 7 p.m. Tony Z brought back Jaxie and his family of 4. Alex, your uncle's here? Come make some tea. Tony Zori called out cheerfully toward Alex Z's room. Big brother, sister-in-law Amina's, he poked her head out from the kitchen to greet them. The two just nodded inferently. Their 2 kids, both around 10, didn't even glance at her. Jaxie wore a crisp white short minus-sleeve shirt. In his right hand was a Sunny flip phone, and on his left wrist, the latest Dance Ton wristwatch of the year. Tony, you can afford a car that costs over 200,000 yuan, but you can't even get a better house. The one speaking was Jack's E's wife, Monica Z. She was in her late 30s, her face covered in a thick layer of foundation. A sharp-tongued woman who only cared about money. This place is just for school convenience. Once Alex gets into college, we'll think about getting something better. Tony Z explained stiffly. Where's Alex Z? Monica Z and herself with a chubby hand looking around. You don't even have air conditioning. That's way too cheap. Tony Z quickly went to his bedroom to fetch a fan. Alex Z slowly came out of his room to make tea. Alex Z, don't you recognize me? Jaxie frowned. Of course I do. Oh? Then who am I? He asked casually. You're my uncle. Then why didn't you greet me or your aunt? Jack's E's turned cold. Monica Z immediately started mocking. Guess all those years of school went right down the drain, huh? From the kitchen, Amina zymed, Lee slammed her knife down hard on the cutting board. Even Jax just shot his wife a glare. But Monica Z didn't feel she was out of line. She turned to Tony Z, who was plugging an extension cord, and sneered, if the kid's rude, that's on the parents. You really didn't raise him well. Tony Z forced a laugh. I'll straighten him out later. Oh, really? You raised your kids right. Did Julie Z or Chrissy greet my parents when they came in? Alex Z walked over, carrying a tray of teacups, and looked straight at Monica Z. You, this little brat, thinks he can lecture me now. Monica Z's face jiggled with fury. I wouldn't dare. Alex dud calmly. Just stating facts. Aren't your children both receiving higher education in the provincial capital? Then how come their manners are so lacking? He didn't give her any face. In his previous life, when he failed his college entrance exam, his family constantly mocked him and his parents. Even when Alex Z was seriously ill, his dad had knelt to beg Jack Z for a loan. Not only did Jack Z refuse, he even beat his father and said Alex Z was a cursed wretch who deserved to die. Alex Z had long since stopped caring about this kind of family. What a joke. You think you deserve to be compared to my kids? My daughter's top of her class. Getting into Zhangzhou University is a done deal. And you? I heard from your dad your grades are terrible. You'd be lucky to get into a third-tier college. People like you are bound to become leeches on society. Monica Z was shaking with rage as she spat the words out. Tony Z's eyes flashed with anger at her nasty tone. Right then, Amina Za came out of the kitchen. Her voice was cold as ice. Monica Z, if you came here to visit, you're very welcome. But if you're here to start fights, then you better leave. She could tolerate insults toward herself and her husband, but not in front of their son. But insulting her son? That was absolutely off limits. Monica Z glanced at the shiny kitchen knife in Amina Z's hand and subconsciously swallowed hard. Jack Z waved his hand. All right, let's all cool it. The kids are here, don't set a bad example. One more word about my son, and don't blame me for being rude. Amina Z warned coldly as she turned back into the kitchen. Monica Z huffed and puffed in anger. Jack Z patted her arm and whispered, Come on. You know they're not exactly educated. No need to waste energy on them. That made Monica Z feel a bit better. She sat down on the couch and started enjoying the breeze from the fan. In Alex Z's room, he heard his mom's fierce defense of him and couldn't help but smile. In his past life, he had stayed silent and Monica Z hadn't gone quite this far. Now, after finally talking back, she'd gone completely off the rails. But his mom, she was showing some serious mama bear energy. Around 8 p.m., everyone sat down for dinner. Monica Z, for once, kept quiet. The atmosphere, however, was still tense. Julie, you applied to Zhangzhou University too? Tony's asked his niece with a smile. Julie Z looked surprised. Why did you say too? Wait, you mean Alex Z also applied to Zhangzhou University? Tony Z nodded, yeah. Your cousin only applied to that one. Julie's eyes instantly burst into laughter. Tony Z's face turned a little red. What? You don't think your cousin can make it? Julie Z chuckled, Uncle. Almost no one from a county high school gets into Zhangzhou University. When has Alex Z ever passed a test? He never dares to show his scores during Spring Festival. And now he only applied to Zhangzhou. I honestly don't know what to say. Her words were filled with condescension. But Tony Z and Aminazad couldn't argue back. They knew she was technically telling the truth. Seeing their expressions darken, Monica Z instantly felt better. She couldn't help but chime in with her trademark sarcasm, Julie. Don't let them go hard, or they might kick us out again. Chris Z, who had just started middle school, dropped his chopsticks and said, let them kick us out, whatever. This food tastes like garbage, not like I wanted to eat it anyway. Amina's eye clenched her chopsticks and poked at her rice, about to say something. But Tony Z gave her a sharp look, silently asking her to let it go. For his sake, she swallowed her anger and kept quiet. Alex Z, still calmly eating, said, there's a hotel just downstairs, turn left when you leave. Might be better to eat there. Jaxie sneered, your dad hasn't said anything, and you're already kicking us out. Alex Z sighed, Uncle, do you really think this dinner has any good vibes? You made a bit of money in the city and came here just to flex, didn't you? That hit home. Jaxie froze. He hadn't told Tony Z yet, but yes, he had made some money recently. He had planned to throw that in his brother's face later. But when he saw the Santana Park downstairs, he decided to hold back. He wanted to test the waters first, then decide whether to bring it up. Tony Z caught the flicker in his brother's eyes and quickly jumped in. He poured a glass of liquor with a smile and said, flattering lie, big brother, seems like business is booming again, huh? Back in the day, Jaxie made quite a bit of money selling bootleg gas on the street. He used those earnings to buy a car and a house in the provincial capital. In recent years, he hadn't had many opportunities, but he'd still saved up a decent amount, probably tens of thousands of yuan. Not enough to show off to the rich, but definitely enough to flex on his poorer relatives. From the flash of surprise in Jaxie's eyes, it was clear Alex Z had guessed right. His uncle really had made some money. And now, Tony's had just lost his job. Maybe his brother could help him out. The chances were slim, but for the sake of the family, sometimes you just had to swallow your pride. Jack Z raised his glass and sipped slowly. Not that much. Just enough to buy 2 Santana S. To Santa NES, that was nearly 500,000 yuan. Tony Z's eyes lit up. What kind of business is that profitable? Take me with you next time. Jaxie chuckled. Didn't he make good money this year too? Last year when he came back to visit, you didn't even have a car. Tony Z took a big swig from his glass, then admitted with a bitter grin, I borrowed the car from my supervisor. Theft! Monica Z couldn't hold back a laugh. So it was all for show, huh? She had actually given him a little credit earlier, thinking he was doing well. Now that she knew the truth, she was back in full sarcasm mode. Tony, come on! If you don't have money, just admit it. Why pretend to be something you're not? Showing off like that sets a bad example for your kid, Monica Z said with a smirk. Amina's ears burned with embarrassment. The look she gave Tony's eye could have shredded steel. You got no shame, fine. But what about me? What about your son? Tony's eye scratched his nose and laughed awkwardly. Big brother, if you've got a good gig, maybe we can team up. We'll build something great, bring honor to the family. That way those flashy villagers won't keep looking down on us. Tony, Jaxie sipped his drink with a smug smile. You've got it wrong. They don't look down on us. They look down on you. The contempt in his eyes was impossible to miss. We're blood brothers. Can't you lend a hand? Tony's not forced to laugh, trying to keep his tone light. Your future is in your own hands, Jaxie said flatly, clearly not interested in helping. So, what Alex said earlier was true. You really did come here just to show off, huh? Tony Z smiled stiffly, but there was no warmth behind it. Alexei watched his father groveling, feeling bitter inside.